Barrel and blade fans, I just got our November box in the mail, so let's open this thing up and see what we got. What's up guys, Eric here with At Home in the Future, and I'm back with another Barrel and Blade super unboxing. We're going to check out a few of their subscriptions in one video. They send it kind of as one package if you get these things. If you're unfamiliar with Barrel and Blade, really cool subscription, prepping, survival, tactical gear. A little bit of a meaner edge to what they send in their boxes versus some of the other options out there. They have 3 different subs now. There's the regular monthly sub, which comes in 2 tiers. There's a chow line, which features like long-term storable survival food and stuff like that. And there's a Knife of the Month club, which is one of my favorite things. Anyway, if you want to get any of these subscriptions for yourself, you can follow the link on the screen or down in the description and save yourself a little bit of money. Rarely any spoilers for Barrel and Blade. We'll say this box is a little thinner than normal, but also has some heft to it, which raises lots of questions for me. So let's get right into it. All right, I'm guessing we got our Knife of the Month right here, which we're gonna put to the side, and we're gonna go through item by item. Let me pull this over to the side and get everything out, and then we'll go through it. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna start with the standard Barrel and Blade subscription box, and we got a Barrel and Blade Classic this month. It appears to be their Bulletproof Edition, or if you get the Recon Tier like I do, you actually get this armor plate. We'll get to that here in a second. Another thing you will notice is I don't have a printout for this box. I just checked my emails and they give you a digital version of that. So we're gonna kind of go through this hot without the normal descriptions and stuff that I rely on. So we'll just go through item by item. First up, from Blaze Defense, we have kind of a small and portable fire extinguisher. These are actually one of my favorite personal safety items to make sure that you have stocked up in your kits. It's frequently something that people forget. I keep these little guys in my car kits, have one near the grill, have one near the kitchen sink, because you never know when this stuff will flare up. Now these, at least for this brand right here, it says do not use in electrical fires. But I believe this is the kind when I tested it last. It doesn't spray like the crazy powder stuff, but it's more like, yeah, it says here like a foam and wetting agent mixture. So it's more like a spray. Simply pull out the tab, aim, shoot that stuff, and it'll typically put that fire right out. And rather than have like one that's super giant, this is one that's just the right size to keep you out of trouble. So there you go, that is our first item this month. Next up is a mainstay in just like the knife and tool care space. We've got a bottle of Flitz, made for keeping your stuff looking super nice, good for metal, plastic, and fiberglass. More of a polish and everything. If you've got a blade, I think this one over here is not too bad right now, but if you got a blade that's been kind of beat up and gnarly, got gunk on it, and in general is just looking gross, this stuff is super useful for keeping your stuff and your tools looking nice. Let's see how big the bottle is here. Here we go, we got a tube of this stuff. 1.76 fluid ounces. Keep turning towards, what's that, the French side for some reason? Every time I pull this towards the camera, it's always the wrong side. But not only does it keep stuff looking nice, but it prevents corrosion and everything. For whatever reason, most of the blades I use could be a lot of the steel that I rely on. I don't have a lot of rust issues, but I also live in Tennessee where that's not a big problem. If you live in a saltier environment, I know a lot of guys rely on this stuff just to keep their blades in tip-top shape. A great thing to have, you get a nice healthy bottle of this in this month's sub, so that is pretty cool. So from Kuda here, I believe we have as kind of a fishing multi-tool. Let's check this out. Yeah, so we got some gear here made for fishing. It features a partially serrated blade with a liner lock, a marlin spike, which to be honest, I'm unfamiliar with. It says from the front of the packaging here, you can use part of this to loosen knots and everything, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna break into this so we can take a quick look at it. All right, so here we've got our tool. Interesting in that I've never seen scales that have a clear insert like this. So I guess that's just a design accent. First, we'll start with the familiar for me. We've got a locking blade here. Made of, it says German 4116 stainless steel. We've got a liner lock built in with a little bit of jimping. And it's got a serrated edge and actually a fairly sharp little blade there. Nice snub nose, so not very stabby or anything. Definitely built for fishing, so let's pop this back down. On the other side, which I'm guessing is for knots and stuff, you're gonna have to forgive my fishing ignorance here. We've got what they call a marlin spike, which I demonstrate on the packaging, flowing in some knots or rope and stuff to get that stuff loosened up. This is an interesting implement. I've never had a multi-tool with this built in. And it's got this little jut over here, which seems to be specifically built just for loosening that little spike to get it back down. So that is something I have not seen before. I'm guessing this may always stick up. Definitely an unusual tool, but if you're a fisherman, let me know in the comments, is this like super useful for you? Because this is something I wouldn't think of. One other thing I just noticed from handling this is that the scales are actually rubberized just a little bit. So if your hands are wet, you're gonna have an easy job holding on to this. So that is an interesting multi-tool to receive. Definitely something different I haven't come across before, but I'm sure pretty useful if you're into that sort of sport. All right, last but not least, for the regular box, I believe, something really fun to get. We've got an Army manual here for unconventional warfare devices and techniques. This one's talking about incendiary devices. So straight from the United States Army here, we've got a plethora of knowledge of what looks like anything that goes boom. So again, as I mentioned, Barrel and Blade tends to have kind of like a tactical focus to the stuff they send out. So this is really interesting. We've got charts and graphs and figures and all sorts of stuff. So a super unique piece of knowledge to add to your library. Something you don't come across in many other subscriptions. And last but not least, I think you've been thinking about this entire time, we've got an actual armor plate. This was responsible for maybe a little bit of the weight in the package, although holding it on its own, it's not all that heavy. It is relatively thin, so if you ever use a plate carrier, this is gonna slide in pretty easy, and it's got some flex to it, which is also really nice. But stripe face faces the front. This is what goes in the back. It's actually Kevlar, whatever material they use inside of these, actually fairly soft against your chest, which is nice. This is 3A protection level, made for pistol calibers only, so not a rifle or anything like that, but any sort of handgun, it should protect you really well. If you don't know, these things have a 5-year shelf life, so I'm not sure how far past that expiration date it would actually be successful. But if you're into this sort of gear and you're building this kit and stuff, we've had plate carriers in previous months too, and now we got a plate to go into those carriers. And I did notice the manufacturer date on this is actually November 10th. When I'm filming this video, I think it's November 20th. So fresh out of the factory, very cool. So there you go. That is this month's regular box, the Recon Tier of Barrel and Blade. We've got fire suppression. We got stuff to clean your blade with. We've got a fishing multi-tool. We got an army manual on incendiaries, and we've got an actual armor plate. Very cool. Again, if you want to get this subscription for yourself, you can follow the link on the screen or down in the description. But let's move on to their second subscription that came in the same box. That's the Knife of the Month Club. I'm going to move this out of the way. Here we go. Okay, Barrel and Blade's Knife of the Month Club. One of the subs I look forward to the most every month. About $100 a month, they always give you a knife worth typically way more than that. It's been all over the place throughout the years. Big knives, small knives. I've had like mini swords. I've had a bunch of great EDC blades. This, I think, is actually one of the first blades I received in the sub a while ago. Anyway, if you want to get this particular sub for yourself, you can follow the link on the screen or down in the description and save yourself a little bit of money, or you can just add it to your other subscription if you're already getting a Barrel and Blade box. So let's see what we got. All right, we appear to have a SOG. This is the Altair XR in Field Green and Stone Blue. Sounds interesting. I have to say, I appreciate this is actually in a normal SOG box. It seems like a lot of the SOG blades I've had in recent years come in that really huge packaging that's all like a nested blister pack. I just don't like those things. So I like the traditional box style thing here. Ooh, interesting. Okay, so it looks like it's connected on the inside here. I'm not sure what the red is here. Let's take it out. Slide it out of our cardboard. I don't know if this is assisted. Sometimes these will be assisted. It doesn't appear so. They actually had a really nice action. It's got their version of the axis lock. Actually, it feels very nice. So I'm guessing our handles here, again, I don't have any documentation to look at. They feel like they're G10. They've got a lot of texture to them, but they're still pretty smooth. I do like this jimping along the back, which is interesting because it's built into our scales here. It goes all the way up onto the blade, so you got quite a bit of grippy surface there. We've got our thumb studs, a really nice drop point profile with a matte finish. Oh, nice. Okay, so the blade steel is a Cryo 154 cm. Really nice super steel for that blade. The deep carry clip is nice. You got a little bit of a back spacer. It almost, in some ways, let me see if I can flick it out here, almost reminds me of a Benchmade bug out. It's got that really thin profile, definitely has a deeper choil here on the front, but the size and the profile and the weight, this is actually a very lightweight knife. Pretty good centering there. I do love the deep carry on there. It is only on one side, so you can't move the clip around. It does appear, just a glance inside, it does look like we have potentially metal liners the whole way down, but it's just not a very loud knife. When I open and close it, I'm not hearing a lot of really loud clicking when I actuate everything. It actually feels really, really nice. My question is, this red here, you know what, now that I'm looking at it, I'm seeing this backspacer here. It appears that we have a different backspacer you could trade out that has a lanyard hole. So maybe you don't want this deep carry clip that comes installed here, but would rather have a lanyard type enclosure. I think that is an interesting option. I don't think I've actually ever seen a knife company do that. Okay, cool. Well, this actually may be my favorite SOG blade that I've received in a while. I love that Benchmade bug out size, which this replicates almost exactly. To me, this is just the perfect size EDC knife for me. I'll pull in this other Kershaw I have over here. You see very similar in size and shape and thinness. This is actually quite a bit thicker. But the lightness of this, that axis lock style opening, I think they call these their XR lock. I do like that. This one's very grippy. It's got kind of ramps up and down on the side to grab your thumb, which I do like quite a bit. Cool looking pivot. All right, so see, great EDC knife this month in Barrel and Blade's Knife of the Month Club. Very, very cool. So that is the SOG Altair XR. It says Phil Green and Stone Blue. I don't know where the blue's at. Maybe they consider the blade here, the coating for that to be a blue. It doesn't look like it to me. Very cool knife though. Again, if you want to get the subscription for yourself, you can follow the link on the screen and down in the description. Save yourself some money if you like knives at all. Super cool subscription to get, really fun. Mix of gear over the years. Even when I get stuff I don't like in the Knife of the Month Club, I just trade it with the other guys I know that love knives, and I just keep stacking in my collection. So I love getting this one. All right, guys, that's it for this month's Super Unboxing. As always, if you dug the video, be sure to hit the like button because it helps the channel out a ton, and subscribe if you want to see more gear and knives and all this stuff. I'll see you guys next time.